Madness Project Nexus, a hack and slash run and gun developed by the masterminds Crinkles and Swain. I have over 1,400 hours on this game, and I've been personally following this game in its slow trail to release since I was 12 years old. This game is my favorite game of all time, which is why I was very eager to rank all the bosses from worst to best on this first video on the channel. Woohoo! Quick note, some of the quality may be a little wonky with audio since for some of these I use my phone. However, later on I was able to have access to an actual microphone. Double quick note, this video will contain massive spoilers from Madness Project Nexus, so steer clear from this video if you haven't played it. And go buy the game on Steam, link in the description. Trust me, the game is way better than this goofy spiel and video. So let's get some rules out of the way. My scale will lean more onto the fun factor, boss design, arena design, and maybe how it impacts the story if I feel it necessary, or maybe not at all. We shall see. Madness Project Nexus isn't an insanely story-heavy game, with heartfelt moments not really being a big factor into the series as a whole, but there is an overall fun plot going on that ties into itself fairly well. I will also add that I do have mods installed, however, they do not affect gameplay in story mode and are very minor with arena mode. You may notice characters looking odd, and that's due to a mod I downloaded that makes some characters look different. For example, the Dissonant Golems look really weird. Phobos has claws, and so do the Zeds. They do not have claws in the actual game, but it doesn't affect gameplay, it just makes them look weird. And the most important thing, this is all just for fun, and it's just my opinion. So if anyone disagrees with my list, I'd love to hear your list and your reasonings down in the comments. Phew! With all that out of the way, let's see which boss takes last place as the worst boss in the game.
Gustalt as a character is easily one of my favorite enemies in the entire game. His constant chasing of the player in the areas he's in, how he gets bigger every time he shows up in the next level, and his immense strength and immunity to conventional weaponry make him a horrifying and fun opponent to face in the game. However, his first boss fight leaves a lot to be desired, even though his animations for a mag are easily the best in the game, where he's able to slam himself in the ground for area damage, swing his claws twice, being faster than all the other mag's punches, and he can bop you with his tusks and even double slam his fists into the ground, which is a much faster version of the simple slam the other mags do. Oh, and not to mention, he moves way faster than the other mags in the game. To talk about his arena, it's okay. I like it, but there's not really much to say. It's a dark area with a bit of machinery, the main elevator in the middle. It's a super spacious area, which is pretty cool, but that's all I can really say about it. With all that said, why, oh why, Agent Gabe, is Gustalt in last place? Well, it's pretty simple. Good luck even getting to see or be bothered by his moves unless you intentionally see them. If you know what you're doing in his first boss fight, especially if you bring the laser guns like I did, then he is a cakewalk. And even if it's your first time playing this boss, you'll most likely quickly realize the elevator support beams gotta go. Especially when Gestalt is holding it up with his immense strength alone, you'll see the little computer icon on the little terminal button badabble, and bam, you click that, the elevator falls on him, you pretty much know what you're supposed to be doing. You'll also notice this behemoth is immune to anything you throw at him. Shoot him, slash him, bash him, blow him up. Use Dr. Kristoff's Nexus bolts, it is just harmless. It's a complete waste of your ammunition, it's pointless. If you know this, then chances are you'll figure out you have to use your amazing, great squad mate, in my case, Hankle Pankle, just to take the great old beating from the Gestalt while you quickly take out the elevator beams. And even if the elevator goes back up, since it is timed, he is not difficult at all whatsoever to avoid his attacks and get him back under the elevator. And even if you do take damage, you'll most likely break all the support beams before anything serious happens. At most, he might get a corpus off, but I doubt it. While Gustalt is a great character with a unique moveset, he's unfortunately weighed down by how absurdly easy he is for being so late in the game. And his fight is just not fun. It's boring and honestly incredibly disappointing because he has all these great movesets. And this is the only time in the whole game where you fight Gestalt like this. So, unfortunately, one of my favorite characters is ranked at the bottom.
Making bacon.
Yeehaw, partner. I love Sheriff's Western design, his cowboy hat, and his voice lines. It really makes him stand out since there are no other cowboy characters in the entire game except in the heist. Anyways, Sheriff has one of the most unique starts of the game, showing off his cowardly nature by shooting at you from across a giant gap, while two merc snipers, along with recruits and merczerkers, try to take you down. The first part of his fight is interesting, but fairly easy when you know what to do. There's two levers on each side of the room. The lever on the left brings a crate zipping on its merry way over to the sheriff. Avoiding the goons and the fire spurting out in front of the lever, all you simply need to do is run to the other side of the room and pull the lever on the right side to drop the crate onto the sheriff's head, which breaks his corpus blocks. Basically, repeat this twice, and the sheriff will leave, telling you to take it outside. This part is simple, but I like it for how different it is. Rather than just punching the boss right away, it's unique. After that, you'll travel into the next room where some of his men will be dealing with you. Take him out quick, heal yourselves up, grab some weapons, and step outside. After this, it's pretty much just a showdown with his men as the sheriff hides behind some sandbags. He'll shoot at you and stuff, but he's really not that big of a hassle. Simply just wait for one of his men wearing a unique vest that'll randomly pop up, kill them, take their C4, and remember, you need to do this as Sanford to deploy that C4 on the sandbags. Basically, repeat this process again, and he'll run away, saying a really funny line about his favorite sandbags being destroyed. And after this, you just fight a bunch of his men again. Merc gunners, merc zerkers, and even a merc captain. Deal with this lot, heal up, and get equipped to finally move on to the sheriff's real boss fight. Golly goodness, what a ramble, huh? I truly love this section, since it's mindless slashing and blasting fun, while also showing how big of a crabapple coward the sheriff is. It's the only boss like this in the entire game, where a boss hides behind his own men rather than fighting with them. His arena is simple but fun, being one of the only boss fights to take place on an outside rooftop. It's simple, but nice. So why in the world is this the second worst boss in the game? Well, after a ton of ramble, that I love by the way, this game's lore is sweetness. We are met with a laughably easy boss for the end of the industrial sector, which really blows because Church and George were much better bosses and way harder. Sheriff has two things. He shoots at you with two revolvers and has a stronger tack bar than other characters. He'll take cover throughout the arena, but that's useless since you can just effortlessly get behind him. For any fun at all, I'd recommend using guns on him and not melee, since if you use melee, he is a joke. However, he's still super easy. Guns or melee, fists, whatever, and if you melee or hand-to-hand sheriff, he'll just get stun-locked. Sure, he may break free or kick you away, but Sanford and Demos can easily just stun-lock him again. So while he's a fun character, his boss fight is just disappointing since you fought all this way to get to the man just for him to be a complete pushover, making his fight overall somewhat fun, but nothing too great. And that's kind of an issue with the majority of the normal-sized bosses because due to stun locking and how fragile they kind of are, they're really easy to cheese. But Sheriff by far is the worst of these.
Number 16 is Hank J. Wibblinton, Wibblinteen, who knew? Design and character-wise, Hank, he's the main character of the whole franchise. The big dog, the absolute legend himself. Looks pretty cool, especially with that ninja outfit of his that he wears throughout the whole game. I also love his armored version he gets in Sector 6. However, during his boss fight, he gets a little messed up after that big fight with Phobos, making him look pretty evil, especially with that metal jaw. What are those? Story-wise, this is a fairly tragic portrayal. Nevada is an absolute hellhole, a heartless, terrible place of murder, and the fact Hank blew Jeb off the roof when there was a glimmer of hope definitely sucks, especially when he betrays Sanford and Demos, which are murderers, but are arguably, quotation marks, better people? Maybe? But he betrays him at the drop of a hat, which really shows what kind of person Hank is. However, the reason why his boss fight is so low is simply because for the main character betraying his friends and being the technical final boss of the game, he is a complete joke in comparison to most other bosses, especially the previous one we just fought at this point. Granted, the man is wounded, and he's probably exhausted since he's the only one who's actually wounded out of the trio who fought Phobos. And it's a 2-on-1, but this is Hank we're talking about here. His fight is pretty simple. All he really does is take a vantage point and lock onto you with a red reticle. If you can't jump out of the way in time, he shoots you. And admittedly, I'm not too great at avoiding these attacks from him. It actually does a pretty good damage, and all you gotta simply do is shoot Hank until his tack bar runs out, and he'll drop down to the floor. He may use vents occasionally, moving between them, kind of like teleporting from place to place. Doesn't really do much. He'll mainly just shoot at you. Sometimes he pulls out his katana, which he can actually block your bullets and swing at you, but he uses his gun mainly. One thing I do like about Hank's fight is I like how agile he is. Constantly moving around, dodging out of the way with his unique roll dodge. However, when Sanford and Demos both have 5 corpus blocks, and Hank only has 3. He doesn't even have the extra armored corpus, which is 4 that he had in Sector 6. It makes Hank he's simply just unable to keep up with the damage output. Even if Hank manages to take off a corpus or 2, it won't matter, you will out-damage him regardless. And that's the biggest problem with this fight. He can't do any sort of serious damage to Sanford and Demos. He's just completely overdone by these two. So overall, he's so easy. That's my biggest problem. It is a fairly fun boss fight, and fighting Hank in the first place is pretty cool. He's a cool boss, he has a couple of cool moves, but for someone who took down Phobos and fought Jeb and fought all these guys throughout story mode, and a lot of them alone until he got Jeb, it's pretty disappointing. I was kind of upset with how easy he was.
At number 15, we have Blackguard. Blackguard's design is wicked cool. I love how he looks like this elite, invincible captain of the golems, which I'm pretty sure that's what he is, but that's besides the point. His shiny black armor, big massive sword and shield, the spikes on his back to protect him from those sneaky pests looking to rip off his helmet. Blackguard is overall, in my opinion, the coolest looking golem in the entire game. And he's also skinny under that armor, compared to the beefcake stature of other golems, which we actually get to see in little gym shower location earlier on in the level right before this boss fight. His arena is fun. I like the techie feel to it, and I enjoy just battling on this bright white ground with this massive Nexus core symbol sprawled out onto it. Getting to the boss himself, Blackguard is completely invincible. Just like Gustalt, you cannot hurt him by any means. Instead, what you have to do is slowly but surely destroy his armor. Now, you can do it the intended way, the boring way, and use Demos' hacking skills to bring out the conduit bots, which are those purple Kamazi bots that blow up. And you basically lead him over, blow the spikes up off his back. It takes like 1 or 2 of them, yada yada yada. Or do it the Agent Gabe 55 certified way and just use Demos' flashbangs to blow that sucker off. It takes like 2. While fighting this beast Blackguard, he has quite a few different attacks he'll use to best you, the player, in combat. He'll jump in the air, swing his sword under the ground 3 times, swing, 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 and then following it up with a ground slam. He'll also charge at you and spin his sword around for area damage, along with hastily swinging his sword in a slicing motion a few times as his normal attack. A cool fact about him, he's actually, I think, the only golem in the entire game that can use a heavy weapon normally, because you'll see the other golems use heavier weapons sometimes, and they can't swing it. Like, a good example is the MK2 in the Sleepwalker bed. He has a giant axe. He does not swing it normally. He uses the heavy weapon set animations. Blackguard swings it normally, and I think that's a really cool fact because he's probably much stronger. Suffice to say, he's not only the most athletic golem in the entire game, however, he's definitely one of the most athletic enemies / bosses in the game, period. So after blowing off his spikes, simply just aggro him again, hit him 5 times. It's kind of weird because it looks like, I kind of always see it as like a holy stance, like, oh, or something weird. He doesn't attack you like other golems do, but jump on his back. Don't be fooled though, because he's a bit different. You cannot rip off his helmet with one character. He will actually grab that character, and there will be this time limit before he throws you off, so you need 2 characters to go behind him to rip off his helmet. After that, though, the guy is still immune to all damage, so you're going to have to break open nearby boxes, which are labeled with exclamation points hovering above them. Destroy those, and you'll eventually find the C4. Now, it implies that Sanford's the one that has to do it, but anybody can do it. Just aggro him again, and once you execute him, you'll just put a C4 in his armor, and it'll blow his armor to smithereens, finally leaving him vulnerable to damage. Now, after you blow off his armor, it's pretty much just the same fight, but now you can actually damage him, so just go ahead and take out that last Corpus block. After you take out his next Corpus, though, it's where the fight for me just drops, big time. Blackguard does have a funny scene breaking character where he then magically just gets a minigun. I don't know where he took that out of. Frickin' the other place, I guess. You'd think that this is where his last stand will be. The guy has a minigun, so obviously he's at the last Corpus. He's at his most vulnerable. He's gonna rain havoc upon the main character, not letting him get anywhere near him with his athletic abilities. Wrong! He's actually at his weakest pulling out the minigun, and that's kind of an issue I have with the Madness Project Nexus, as much as I love this game. Miniguns are, I believe, held by like 2 characters, the MK2 and the Blackguard. Once they pull out their miniguns, they are jokes. It sucks to say it, but it's true. They don't shoot rapidly enough at all. If you really screw around, you might get a Corpus block taken out, but if you're actually trying to kill him, he's donezo. He turns way too slowly. He's not at all really accurate with the minigun at all, and all you have to do is just gang up on him with Sanford, Demos, and Hank, and he's dead. He doesn't really have a good way to get away from you either. If he had some sort of like flip that he did, like he flipped around to get away from you and shot at you aggressively with the minigun, even if it was on tougher modes like Tough or Madness, I think that would really benefit him. He's one of the final bosses of story mode, and I think it's kind of disappointing how easy he is when he's at his last stand. Anyways, Blackguard overall is a fun and very unique boss. And just because he's at number 15, it doesn't mean he's bad in any way, shape, or form. He's a very different type of boss from most others on the list, being where you can't just immediately go ham on him, but instead slowly whittle away his armor. And overall, he's a good boss that, in my opinion, just unfortunately isn't as good as the others on this list. Order up! Are you hungry? I know I am. Good thing Nexus City's #1 chef is here to give us some yummy Zed burgers all the way at number 14. Speaking of Gil, I gotta say, his design is pretty neat. I love the simple fact that a chef golem even exists in the first place, and what makes him more unique is he's one of the only 2 Zed golems in the entire game. Gotta give quick props to the bullet holes in his outfit, showing that the fall of Nexus City really did a number on the guy. His arena is honestly cool. It's all dark and red, and not just dark look-wise, but it's thematically one of the darkest in the game, showing that he's using his own customers and zombies as a meat source to customers that don't even exist anymore. It's truly just a gross, bloody red kitchen, and I'm honestly all here for it. It's really aesthetically just cool to me. Kinda gnarly, bro. Even though Gil is at number 14, he's still a fun boss to fight. While battling the Zeds that come through the windows, you'll also have to avoid his snappy moveset. His first corpus, he'll attack you with a cleaver and knife, which does some solid damage if it actually manages to hit you. He'll jump to a specific area of the room and start charging all around the corners until he slips, leaving him open to be hit. This stand-up guy doesn't even attack you in the middle of the room where it's safe. Thanks, Gil! Do not let him charge into you, since it'll knock you over and stun you, leaving you open for an execution. However, one thing you'd be used to as of now is aggroing golems 5 times. Hit them 5 times, you can get on their back, and that does extra damage and possibly kills them if they're wounded enough. However, Gil is unique in the fact that he not only swings at you a few times when he aggros, but he also tries to grab you from behind him. And there's no execution, you cannot execute him from behind, so there is no weakness to him aggroing, unlike other golems. Anyways, whittle down his first corpus, and this mad lad will be chucking his famous burgers for free at you. Unfortunately though, don't eat them, since they'll only stun you and do damage, plus they're probably made of dead corpses and zombified guts, so yeah, don't eat them. Break the Zed Chefs down to his last corpus block and he'll go fisticuffs. He's pretty much the exact same, except now he hits you with his hands, and his charging ability goes throughout the entire room, even the middle now. Come on, Gil! Oh! He can also grab you occasionally with a charge, which instantly executes you for some good old damage. Overall, Gil, even being so low, isn't bad at all. In fact, I think he's pretty fun. I only ranked him so low since, in my opinion, I just find other bosses to be more fun, and Gil doesn't overstay his welcome, but he stays for just enough to be a fun little battle with his Zed buddies, especially since he's the only Zed boss in all of story mode, and the only zombie boss inside the entire game, unless you count the Zed Golem and Haunting of Nevada House, but I'm not going to show that, because that's for later in another video. Sorry!
Oh, Ghoul. Back in the old days of this game, the concept art and mentions of Ghoul, Gustalt, and Hive truly made me excited. Originally, Ghoul was actually going to be a mag zombie, if you can believe it. Pretty different from what we have now, eh? Anyways, I like Ghoul's arena since it's an infinite elevator that goes upwards that you have to break apart in order to beat the boss. It's nothing grand, but it's a pretty interesting concept, and I like how it looks. Ghoul himself is a spider-like robot, and for me is one of the coolest and most unique bosses look-wise in this game. Anywho, getting down to his boss fight, he has 4 corpus blocks, and with the first 3, the only way to beat him is timing. Ghoul will come at you with a variety of different attacks. However, keep in mind his arms are completely immune to your weapons, so you want to either attack his back or his face. He has a wide laser attack that will sweep across the entirety of the elevator, which actually makes ragdolling a useful feature to avoid this attack. Press K if you don't know what I'm talking about. He'll swipe at you with his mechanical claws. Do not bother blocking, they are unblockable. Ground slam you to send you flying, which gets even more dangerous the more elevators shafts that are broken. And he will shoot you with little lasers, and occasionally lock on to you with the red dot attack that a lot of other lock-on enemies like the Merc Sniper do. In order to beat Ghoul, after draining a corpus block, he will repeatedly jump in the air, trying to slam down on you for extra damage. In this phase, you cannot hurt him. He's the only boss in the game that really requires timing like this, but the only way to beat him is pretty simple, but can also be a bit tricky. You need to make sure that he lands exactly on the buckles holding the elevator together. The reason why this is tough is because, yeah, you can just stand there and he can hit you and the buckles will go away, but you will lose a corpus. And if you're on Madness mode, he can be a pretty tough fight. So I would recommend to time it right, which can actually be pretty damn difficult. Every time he does this, however, he will fall off the side, trying to pull himself back up. This gives you a chance for extra damage. However, each time he does break a piece of the elevator, this lessens the space you have of the whole arena, giving you less breathing room to avoid Ghoul. And as mentioned previously, this is where his ground slam attack becomes the most dangerous, because this attack will send you flying, and if you fall, you instantly lose a corpus. This is pretty much the same thing over and over again. Rinse and repeat this cycle till there's no more elevator panels left. You'll be on one last panel, avoid his attacks until his head explodes, and boom. See you later, Ghoul. Overall, Ghoul's fun. For me, though, he is weighed down by how easy he can be at times. I remember one update on Madness mode, I couldn't even beat him. I don't know if he's still that way, because everything I've done so far is on tough difficulty, but I don't like absurdly difficult bosses, to be honest. However, I will say one of my biggest gripes with this boss is super small, but it's still a personal opinion gripe. I think he hangs off the elevator way too long. Yeah, it's only for a couple seconds, but those couple seconds, you can get in some good damage. And he's not a tanky boss. Once he finally gets up, it'll take a couple hits and he's instantly gonna scream and do that whole jump thing again. So he is fun, but he just does not last long enough to warrant a higher ranking on this list. And he is the last boss of the mining sector, which is one of the last sectors in the whole game, besides Sector 6, which is the actual last one. Ghoul's great, but he's way too much of a glass cannon, so he ranks at number 13.
You stand not a chance. As I expected.
Jebuso Jebus. How I love and somewhat dislike this boss fight. And this is a thing with the sheriff as well, where normal-sized bosses just have glaring problems. On one hand, it's pretty fun. The fight happens in an abandoned lab with old testing tubes, office equipment, and old computers. The blood on the floor saying results is pretty cool too, and I like the purple lighting with the buildings out the windows. Most of the other sectors, besides the mining sector obviously, having a different sky color. Dr. Kristoff has a cool design, especially with how normal he used to look in the past scenes. His stitched up face and bandaged body shows how much he's been damaged over the course of the series. And that iconic halo and badass shades never fail the cool factor for me. Kristoff's fight is overall a fun one. He starts off by shooting at you with a revolver while also locking on you and shooting Nexus bolts. I would say the Nexus bolts are technically his most damaging ability, because if these purple puppies hit you, say goodbye to a corpus block because it instantly takes one out with one hit. His dodge is also a short float, which he will do in order to gain some distance from you. He also has attack bar, so shooting him will take a few bullets before he actually takes damage, but if you melee him, it goes right through. After you break his first corpus block, his second phase, which I believe is his hardest phase, will begin, where he pulls out his very unique weapon, the binary sword, which in my personal opinion, I truly believe it's one of the best melee weapons in the entire game. In this phase, he'll attempt to swing his blade at you while blocking and deflecting most of your bullets. Sometimes he just won't block, which causes him to take damage, but be careful when you shoot at him because he can actually deflect your bullets back at you, which kind of makes me weirded out because Jeb in the animations has a shield. He doesn't have that in this game, and except for the end at Phobos' fight where he has a shield all of a sudden. But I digress. It just bothers me because I just don't understand it. He can actually put up a pretty decent fight here. However, you'll most likely only lose like one corpus block at most. And after that, his sword breaks, and it's the same deal, just with a weaker version of his weapon, which is called the binary shard. However, he can also go right back to his revolver, so I guess it really depends on what he wants. Whittle him down one more time, and Jeb is finally defeated. So here's the good and the bad. Jeb is fun, which is what a boss should be. However, I do wish he had more powers in his boss fight to make him more difficult. For being Jebediah himself, one of Hank's main and strongest antagonists, he's pretty cheesable and easy. Sure, he can parry and block your melee's attacks, but if you melee Jeb, you can cheese him pretty easily, especially with the drop kick. Something that I mentioned earlier, which is his hand shield, would have been really cool, which, like I said, is oddly missing. And it still just is weird to me that he has the shield in the final part of the boss fight of Phobos, but he doesn't have it in this! Jeb was able to summon zombies in the animations, but I'm pretty sure they didn't want that for Jebediah anymore, which I still think is a really cool ability. I don't know why. And I really think he can also benefit from some telekinetic attacks. Like maybe, for example, he can grab your weapon from across the room or throw items at you like Phobos does with his powers, or even have a lock-on from a range where if it hits you, he can instantly execute you with his unique telekinesis execution. Overall, Jeb is fun, but he's just so disappointing to me, because when we compare Jeb and Hank is obviously super good at fighting. He's much better fighter than Jeb, but Jeb's most unique thing is the halo on his head gives him very unique magical abilities, and he's just weak. He's weaker than he should be. In my opinion, that's obviously no flack. I love this game. It's just my own personal opinion, as you guys know. And unlike with Hank, where given the circumstances, I can understand his boss fight being fairly easy because he was like probably almost dead after fighting a literal godly being. Jeb is a magic powerhouse, and I really wish they at least gave him more magic-based attacks, because if he ever does a slam attack, it's way too slow, and you'll either be able to easily dodge out of the way or knock him over. So he's just too limited. But he is fun, and I love Jeb as a character, so I'm glad he's in the game at all. And at number 11, we have Mag Bandit. He is the technical first boss of story mode. However, if you played the demo before this, Church and George would have been your first boss. I gotta say, I love the way he looks. Somewhat techy, but also the starving, mad giant homeless man, with his outfit just being rags and metal scraps from the wasteland in Nevada. My absolute favorite thing, though, about his design is that stupid licky face on his mask. Oh, and here's a little secret. Under his mask is 2 giant eyes, which I figured out through modding. Mag Bandit is a fairly easy but fun boss fight. Set on the streets of the outskirts of Nexus City, the barren wasteland-like road is a perfect fight for a giant bandit. Mag Bandit is super special in 2 ways. 1, besides Jeb, he's the only other boss in the entirety of story mode you fight without a squad mate. And 2, he's the only normal mag boss fight in the whole game. Sure, there's Gustalt and Hive, but they aren't normal whatsoever, and the other mags are just mini bosses at best. Mag Bandit is a slow, big behemoth that can tank a fair amount of damage, and unlike all the other boss fights in the game, you'll start with 0 weapons whatsoever. The only way to get any weapons at all is by killing his bandit buddies that come out to try and help their big old pal. But there's no guns, just simple weapons like hand axes, rebars, screwdrivers. No bullets to be found at all whatsoever in the whole level. Mag Bandit is a very telegraphed boss, and with his slow attacks comes 2 main things he can do. 1 is during his first 2 corpus, he has a slow winded up punch that deals decent damage. It can knock you back. And his second attack is a heavy 2-handed ground smash that can not only kill you, however, it kills his own men and will send you flying throughout the street. So don't get hit by it, folks. After there's 2 corpuses down, he'll do, in what's my personal opinion, his most dangerous attack, which is picking up random big junk in the arena, such as a car door and other things. And the reason why I think this is the most dangerous attack is because once he throws this at you, you only have a second or 2 to dodge once he flashes red. And if this attack hits you, it instantly knocks off a corpus, and there is not a lot of attacks in this game that instantly take away a corpus. Good news is, this attack can also kill his bandit buddies. So he has 2 attacks that can kill his bandit buddies, and there's actually 3. What a jolly giant mag this is. Once he's down to his last 2 corpus, he'll rip off a literal street light and start trying to hit you with it. This concept is a great idea. However, he's so slow. Good luck getting hit by it. It is extremely easy to dodge. However, he is the first boss, and he's literally a starving giant, so malnutrition doesn't get you far. If you do happen to get hit, you'll most likely lose an entire corpus. I mean, props to Hank on surviving a literal streetlight being smashed on him by a giant. He's not the main character for nothing, folks. After this, the first boss is done. An overall fun boss. I mean, sure, he's slow, but hey, he's a starving mag that's also the first boss of story mode. A quick add-on, I think would have been cool if they added dialogue for the sheriff like they did for Ghoul and Slaughter Time, such as if Hank lost corpus or took out Mag Bandit's health, the sheriff would have unique lines that go on to that. I also think it would have been awesome if in Madness mode the sheriff and his snipers took pot shots at you with the red dot reticle and other boss fights during the fight. I think that would have added some extra flavor, and it would make sense. They want Hank dead. Why wouldn't they help out the Mag Bandit? Hey, didn't we just talk about this big slug? Oh well, what the heck. His new arena is interesting, being trapped with this big behemoth in the literal sewers as a faint blue glowing light hangs from above. I really enjoy the atmosphere of this room for his boss battle. This time, he's a little better and a smidge tougher, but only by a little bit. It's the same deal, except now there's a few guns hiding in the way in the nearby lockers compared to last time when there were no guns at all. Mag Bandit is for the most part the exact same. His ghouls will arrive with scrap swords and torches, while Mag Bandit pretty much has the exact same attacks. The only difference is mainly two things. One is when he slams the ground, this time falling rubble will appear to hit you, indicated by these giant red circles. 2, he grabs a massive pipe off the wall. What makes this part more difficult is where last time he had this street light slowly slamming down in a straight line, Mag Bandit now will swing this giant pipe sideways, making it way more dangerous and difficult to dodge. If this pipe hits you, prepare to go flying. However, he only has this pipe for a short time, due to him only grabbing the pipe on his last 2 corpus blocks. So overall, the rematch with Mag Bandit is a bit more fun and enjoyable. I've always been a fan of villains coming back midway through the game for rematches. Oh, Church and George. He doesn't overstay his welcome for being a big gerbil mag, and he lasts just long enough for a fun fight. So overall, him and his bandit boys are good in my book. After terrorizing you through multiple levels, it's finally time to end this big lad for good. Big issue. As high as this is on the list, I both love and get very disappointed by this fight, and here's why. Before I start, I'm including his first phase along with Apothec Gestalt in the same number 9 ranking, due to the simple fact that I just feel like they are the same fight, just with some pretty decent differences. But this is my list, so what do you care? You're just here for me to explain things. His first part is unique. All you simply have to do is throw these big plugs into the big orange glowing power outlets. Still, like throughout the entire game, Gustalt is still immune to all damage. One thing to keep in mind is to make sure before you plug that second plug in, Gestalt will move from left to right, so make sure that big machine in the middle is facing towards him, otherwise it won't sync properly and you won't be able to damage him. This machine, called the Divergence Engine, makes him vulnerable, and if the machine doesn't connect to him, it won't make him vulnerable, so make sure it connects to Gestalt! Anywho, he has 3 main attacks. One is slamming his foot in the ground, or damaging the side of the building to cause rubble to fall on top of you. The second is smashing his hand into the floor for white flames to shoot out at you. Or 3, he sticks his big red hand in the ground to pop up some tendrils to hit you. I gotta say, I think these attacks are really unique and cool, and it definitely signifies how big of a threat Gestalt is in general. After flaying 2 of his corpus blocks, some tentacles will appear to block the 2 remaining power boxes, which are now up top instead of on the sides. However, since we are epic gamers, we simply just shoot those tendrils with a laser gun into a nice smoking tendril dinner. After that, simply rinse and repeat and send the big guy beaming away. I would recommend you keep the Endozer for this fight, because it definitely makes him a lot easier to take out, because there is a time limit, but you'll probably do enough damage to take out his corpus block before he escapes from the engine anyways, but thought it's something I would point out for you guys. So, after he beams away, he becomes Apothec Gestalt. Now, the reason why this fight is so high is for 2 reasons. I absolutely love Gestalt as a character and the spectacle. Gestalt has to be one of my favorite characters in the series. He's so cool, and apparently, he's completely sapient. I'm pretty sure I read that on Curious Cat or something on Crinkle's page, and he can actually speak. He just has a lot going on in his head, so I love a DLC or something where he actually talks. Who cares, Gabe? We're here for the rankings! Anyways, back to it. His attacks are pretty cool to look at, and now we have Apothec Gestalt, and not only does he look amazing with his wings, but his attacks, for me, visually, are the sickest in the game. You know what else is sick? You know what makes me sick? How easy this fight is. Oh, and I say this with love. Love, guys. I say this with love. But Apothec Gestalt is insultingly easy. Yes, am I taking damage right now? Yes, but that's because I'm not attacking him, so I can show you guys his attacks with the Endozer, or don't even bother with the rockets. You grab the Dissonance Launcher, he's donezo. Dodge out of his way, and even if it does do damage to you, you have a bajillion corpus with all three of your characters combined, so even though they don't really help you out, he's donezo. Anyways, as easy as he is, especially with the Dissonance Launcher, he does have amazing cool moves, such as shooting flying tendrils at you, shooting small meteors out of his mouth, and firing a literal dissonant laser beam out of his mouth too. But unfortunately, I don't even think explaining the boss is worth it, since most people won't even get much out of it, since he's dead within a minute at most. Now, I do understand Phobos' boss fight is directly after this battle, which in my opinion is the hardest in the entire game, and I don't think a lot of people would disagree with me on that. However, a really easy way to fix this is they could have just added a checkpoint before Phobos' boss fight. That way, if you lost to Gustalt, he had his boss fight, so you could do his, make Gustalt's boss fight harder, then you could do Phobos, so if you die to Phobos, you just have a checkpoint right back at Phobos' boss fight. Now, one thing they needed to do, in my opinion, Gustalt needed to be more tanky. And I think he should have been way more aggressive and faster. And I'm saying this, I know balancing difficulty's hard. And obviously, nobody needs to listen to me. I'm just a dude who has an opinion. Everyone's has an opinion. But he is the final, or penultimate final boss, pretty much, unless you count Hank. I don't count Hank. I count Phobos as the final boss of the entire game. And how easy he is, especially with how Gustalt is supposed to be this amazingly massive threat, it's disappointing. Because, wow, when I first saw Apothecary Gestalt, I was amazed, and he went down in less than a minute, and that really disappointed me. This fight would be easy with just Deimos alone, better yet Hank and Sanford included, and for the finale of Gestalt and his seeming death, like, this is where Gestalt dies. This is his final fight. So it's just immensely disappointing how he goes out kind of like a joke and he's pretty much a glass cannon. I do, however, love this boss. It is fun, but it just ends way too quickly for being one of the final bosses in the game. And for that reason, he ranks at number 9 of my list.
Can't kill clown, the clown kills you. I'm not done fighting you yet.
At number 8, we have Tricky's Playhouse. But Agent Gabe, this isn't a boss! Sure, I guess it's technically not, but I'm adding it here anyways. This battle royale is simply one of the hardest fights in the entire game. Tricky's twisted version of Slaughter Time involves way more difficult and unfair antics than the actual thing. So it works like this. There are 3 stages, each consisting of surviving 1 minute and 30 seconds each. And oh boy, will that time feel like forever once you play this part. Tricky's Playhouse is simple at first. The first stage will throw presents into the arena, just like the actual Slaughter Time, where they blow up to give you weapons. However, avoid them because they do have a flashbang effect. Parts of the floor will fall and disappear, random blocks of cover will show up, and whole lines of fire will spring up across the stage to cause you trouble. In this round, you're only dealing with 2 simple enemies, a Silent Patience and Honk Zeds, which are just normal Zeds that blow up with a flashbang effect on death. Round 2, however, is when the stage gets significantly more difficult since they add pharmacists, orderlies, and even a pharmacist junior, which is a golem with a saw. Terrifying, I know. Not to mention, the sides of the arena will go away, leaving much less room to dodge and more room to fall. And since the Nexus are our friends, drones will appear to shoot lasers at you, along with literal laser guns, which luckily can be destroyed. Oh, don't forget the fire too! All this mayhem is a lot to deal with while trying to avoid traps, avoid not getting thrown off, or even damaged in the first place, since there is no way to heal yourself once all this starts. The hardest section is the 3rd round. Most likely on your last corpus or 2, since you're gonna take a beating in the previous 2 rounds, you'll only have 3 lines of panel to walk on. Oh, and a Tesla that shoots electricity, blasting in 4 directions. Oh, and you still have to deal with the fire. Oh, and let's add on some Sleepwalker golems in the mix that can't be killed unless you knock them off the stage or their masks are ripped off. Oh boy. All in all, Tricky's Playhouse looks awesome and is an absolute testament to your skill. Besides maybe Phobos, this is, for me anyways, the hardest part of the entire game. Period. A true endurance trial that is not only fun, but challenging. And I only didn't put this higher since it's not a true boss, and it's so hard at times it can be pretty frustrating, which I didn't feel this with any of the other bosses in the game. So, good job, Tricky. You mad clown bastard. You made Slaughter Time way harder than the actual thing.
Got a fresh one. Big man has the rock. Big man has the rock.
Oh boy, Church and George. The first of multiple battles with the Gunner twins is great as the first boss of the industrial sector and the second boss in all of story mode. Church and George are big boys, being the only golems the Merc faction has access to. The arena we fight them in is big and spacious, with some fire spitting out of certain areas and explosive barrels thrown right into the mix. These two take a decent amount of damage and have 2 corpus each. Church and George both work like this. Church is the melee fighter, while George always attacks you with a ranged weapon. They attack you with an infinite number of Merc units, but they're basic cannon fodder. In this fight, no matter where you go, Church will always jump at you if you get far enough away from him. Church will charge at you, and if he hits you, it'll knock you down and stun you, leaving you open for him to do an execution on you for some decent damage. Other than that, he simply swings his massive fists at you, which are equipped with electricity gauntlets for added damage. If you manage to knock Church down either with grenades or taking out his first corpus, he will fall and then immediately jump back up to do a ground slam of electricity, damaging you and even killing nearby allies. This attack, in my opinion, is one of Church's most dangerous, and for new players, they won't suspect this, so they're most likely going to take a pretty helping heaping of damage. Ooh. George, on the other hand, is dangerous, but pretty simple. If you're not hiding behind cover of walls, the red lock on reticle that appears with multiple other enemies will show up, and if you don't dodge in time, he will shoot you for some decent damage with his anti-tank rifle. He actually can provide some pretty good support for Church when you're out in the open, and these two can rough you up, especially if you're a newer player. Once Church is dead, however, George is pretty defenseless, only being able to kick you away or bop you with his gun, which doesn't really do much, especially if you still have grenades. Overall though, these two are so much fun and a great welcoming addition to Madness Project Nexus. Hive, this high up on my list, may be a black sheep take, but hey, we don't call ourselves the underdogs for no reason. Can High overstay his welcome? Sure. Does he lack a ton of different attacks? Yes, he does. Yet, this doesn't detour for me in terms of his fun value. Hive's arena is pretty eerie for me. Just this big empty space with some computers and Nexus logos. Oh, and not to mention those weird power thingies Hive loves to use. Hive himself is so cool to me. This big metal machine with teeth and guts on the inside with glowing red eyes, like he's a mix of man and machine. Out of all Project Nexus's experiments, it makes me wonder what in the ever-living crab shack is even Hive. What's he used for? Overall though, he's just so cool. And if not the most unique looking enemy, along with others such as Ghoul and Gustalt. Down to his boss fight. Hive is another invulnerable boss with 6 total corpus. This time, instead of whittling away his armor or making him vulnerable with a powerful machine, you must simply endure his attacks until the giant battery pack on his back hits red. The more attacks he does, the more it'll go down. After that, he'll fall to the floor, releasing Hive slurs, where his guts will be exposed. This is the only way to hurt him, and a personal tip: do not bother shooting his guts. Melee only. For some reason, it just works better, at least for me. Hive has his basic attacks, such as if you come too close to him, he'll bop or swing at you with his cane, which will ragdoll you. but his main attacks come from the rocket launchers on his shoulders. Besides the Eater, he is the only boss in the game that is primarily explosive based in terms of rockets. However, the Eater is only explosive based in his last corpus, but we're not at his boss fight yet, so shush! Hive will start off with 2 massive red circles moving all throughout the arena. After a few seconds, his rockets will go off, shooting at those circles. If they hit you, they do a decent amount of damage and will always ragdoll you and sometimes actually send you flying. You got hit by rockets. What do you expect, guys? These can be pretty tricky to dodge at times since they move around the arena pretty quickly, so you'll have to pay close attention to the circles. However, at half health, this will move up to 4 circles, meaning 4 possible rockets to hit you. His other attack is to point his rocket launchers up in the air and fire many rockets into the... well, wherever they go is a good question. Anywho, now there's a lot more red circles you have to avoid. But this time they are stationary, making it a bit more easy at times to avoid. After you take out one of his corpus, he will always shoot 2 rockets directly under him, clearly not enjoying visitors. Once this happens, he then makes his way over to charge himself up with that battery thingamabobber gadget whatevers. This simply charges the big lad up and makes a fairly easy avoidable ring of electricity around him that goes away after a little while. With all that out of the way, every time he charges up, some Nexus agents will drop in to try and take you out, but at this point, they're nothing but cannon fodder. You made it this far, they're jokes. So just slay those suckers. Every time this chubby wubby opens his metal stomach hatch, Hive slugs will appear, as I mentioned earlier. Super basic enemies that take 1 hit to kill. However, if they do grab you, they will blow up in your face, which will always knock you over. They don't do a lot of damage, but they do leave you susceptible to Hive's attacks. After you finally take out his last corpus, his toughest attack happens, where for a few seconds, he'll shoot off rockets into the air that come down super quick. I mean, sure, the red circles still appear, but it won't matter. If you are somehow stuck under one of these, you will most likely take damage. Survive this, and he's as good as gone. His head blows up, his rockets blow up. It's actually a pretty cool death scene. Phew! So, let's take a breather. Hive is easily the most endurance trial-like boss in the game. While others might put him much lower, I personally really like Hive. However, with how long it can take to wait for his attacks, it would have been more interesting if he had a few more attacks on hand. Phew, heckles, maybe a mouth laser. I don't know. I'm not a game developer. I am a movie maker in the making. Hive is one of the last bosses in story mode. And suffice to say, yes, he could stay too long, and may not have enough attacks, which I really think he could have benefited from, but he's still pretty fun, and for me, one of the most unique fights in the whole game.
This domain is mine. Oh, welcome.
From an egghead to a cult leader, Dr. Crackpot is one of my favorite characters in the game. From the secret of being able to punch him in the face in Kristoff's flashback, to him being the fence in the arena, selling you color swatches, augments, and special weapons, Crackpot is overall an interesting character. His design of a plague doctor mask, some old rags, and wooden boards with literal Christmas lights on him really stands out to me. This man really just found whatever he could in the mining sector to try and complete his lordly getup. His arena is cool, looking like he really tried his best to make a unique area for his worshippers to praise the buoyancy. He also has some interesting lore, such as most of his cultists being old Nexus Asylum patients. Onto the boss fight, it starts off with 2 prophets, which are essentially normal enemies that can slowly throw a hook like Sanford and come back to life like Zeds. Keep in mind, the only guns you'll have with you in this fight are the ones you brought with you, such as from the safe room, etc. There are no guns to be found in Crackpot's fight. After you kill the 2 prophets, Crackpot will teleport down to fight you. His 2 magical abilities consists of being able to teleport in a puff of pink smoke, which he will always do a few times once he loses Corpus. The next is magical pink bolts that do some damage, but they mainly knock you over and stun you. After Crackpot loses 1 Corpus, he will switch from no weapon to a scimitar, which he utilizes a unique thrust animation that's only found on a few melee weapons in the whole game, and it's a very fast attack. Crackpot is really fast, constantly dodging around the battlefield, teleporting around at times, He can drop kick you, charge up his attacks, and swing his sword constantly for damage. Not to mention, he is the only normal-sized character in the entire game that utilizes extra enemies during his boss fight, which will include fodder such as Zeds and Fanatics. Due to his agility, just like Hank, Crackpot will dodge Sanford's hook throw, making it completely useless, meaning unless you save some bullets for him, you'll usually have to melee him up close and personal. After you beat the cult leader, he will teleport to his Gale, the hubris, and boast about himself. Before the poor doctor gets crushed and killed by Gustalt. Sorry, Cracky, me boy, but you are donezo. Anyway, Crackpot for me is just so much fun, and he's in my opinion the only regular-sized boss done right. He's quick, deadly, and his allies help out with not being able to just cheese him. For newer players, I can definitely see this being one of the hardest fights so far in story mode. So Crackpot is one of the best this game has to offer. He's challenging, but fun, which I think most late game bosses should be. Finally, Guy is a ton different than any boss in the game. Simply being, he's free DLC after story mode that takes place in the game's sectors, not its levels. He's the only boss in the entire game you can fight in the sectors, and with any character you can get from a level, meaning Tricky, the Robo Butler, the Sheriff, etc. These characters also have unique lines too. But this isn't a DLC review, this is a boss review! He looks to have a golem-like body with metal robotic arms, red eyes, and rags covering his body, which is just eerie for me, especially since this guy used to be a normal-looking doctor. Man, the doctors in Nexus City really get it rough. Jeez. During his final fight, he reveals what's underneath, which is honestly just creepy to me. He's such a unique-looking boss, and he looks so upset all the time. This guy could really use some of Gil's famous burgers. To start this off, there's 3 phases in my book. The first time you meet him, you have to kill him. He's incredibly tanky, cannot get knocked over by grenades, and his attacks consist of a massive swing with a giant scythe that sends you and even golems flying. Every time you get hit by this attack, it will send you flying. It will ragdoll you every time. Oh, and not to mention, an attack that permanently kills the player character. I mean that lightly though, since if you start a new level or go to another sector, your dead character will come back with a single corpus. The way his second attack works is he'll flash red, pointing his scythe at you. After a second or two, he will charge at you incredibly fast, attempting to grab you. If he does grab your character, the only way out is for your squad mate to grab him from behind, which will save your character, but your squad mate will get headbutted right off the eater. If you fail this, however, your character will explode. And this is the only attack in the entirety of story mode which you can't revive your squad mates from. Arena mode, you can't revive them at all, so they are permanently dead until you go to another sector. This makes him extremely dangerous, especially in the residential sector, where his scythe can knock you off the rooftops. Skipping a bunch of DLC stuff, this guy will never, ever stop chasing you throughout the sectors. He is adamant on killing you. He chases and chases and chases, mainly going after only you. After the first kill, just run and try to avoid him. Even if you do kill him again, he just comes back after a little while anyways.
After a bunch of scavenging, you'll eventually form the Prime Blade, which is the only infinitely durable melee weapon you can get in the game without cheats.
This is where the actual boss fight begins. His first phase starts off the exact same with the same 2 attacks you've seen already. In fact, he's pretty much the same now, except he has 3 corpus. Your attacks will work on him, however, he will eventually fall to the ground, where a yellow swirl and shield will appear over his head. The only way to take out his corpus is to execute him with the Prime Blade. any other weapon, he'll just buck you off and get up again without losing his corpus block. Now, a really cool thing is how it looks like a mini fight scene when this happens. The first time you will actually be disarmed of your blade and he'll send you flying, so keep that in mind when you fight him. On to his second corpus. The only difference now is red rectangles will appear, indicating to avoid those areas specifically. If you don't, you will be struck by a saw blade that comes out of the floor. Only 1 or 2 at a time, so it's not too hard to dodge. His third phase starts with you knocking his scythe out of his hand, causing him to pull out his rocket launcher. The fight is largely the same, except he will shoot this big rocket at you. It does decent damage and will knock you over or send you flying if hit by it, but it's honestly not too crazy. Other than that, you simply finish him off, whittle down his health enough one last time, and finish the eater off with a one last execution. Now I know some, if not a lot of people, would rank him much lower. However, even though he's so simple, it really was fun to fight him. What drags this boss a bit down is I really think he would have benefited from more attacks. Plain and simple. You fight this guy so much throughout the DLC and deal with him. He's relentless. He is relentless. He will not leave you alone for 1 second unless you go into a level as you are running around during this DLC. And it's pretty much just 2 attacks. And at the end, he just gets a rocket launcher and some saw blades. He really could have used some more special abilities and movements to keep him more engaging. Especially with how much you have to deal with him. Overall, though, he's still somewhat basic, but he's a really cool boss that's fairly challenging, and I personally had a lot of fun with his final fight. Oh, and I love the Prime Blade after you beat him. It is so much fun to use. For the top 3, we have finally come to the final and, in my opinion, the only real boss in arena mode. The Grand Steward has a lot going for him. The absolute weirdness of his design being a weird mechanical head crawling around on metal legs. What are those? With glowing orange eyes. His arena, for me, is the most unique, period. I mean, a big platform held up by chains, and in the background, just giant spinning cogs. Like, where in the world are we? He will attack with his robot minions. You fought so far in the level, so nothing new about him. Just the same robots with the same weapons. Grand Steward has a variety of attacks, having more than most other bosses. The Grand Steward will shoot a giant orange mouth beam at you from the front of the platform, moving sideways to try and hit you with it. This attack also kills his own allies. He will also perform the same attack in the middle of the platform, spinning around to try and hit you with it. These attacks are fairly slow, and for a final boss, don't do that much damage, even though they do cause a burning effect. He can drop orange balls of fire coming from the sky, along with shooting them from his eyes. He can also spin metal parts of his body around and charge at you, attempting to hit you with his metal, which will always knock you over if struck by it. Oh, and there's that little bite he does if you get too close to him. The only time you can actually hurt this boss is when his face is showing. When he puts on that protective mask, he won't take any damage. He is immune to every single weapon or magic you can throw at him. And the only way to damage him again is when he shows his face. And he will only show his face once you've defeated his bot fodder. Now, with all that said, this boss has some of the most health in the game, being at 7 corpus blocks strong. So basically, just avoid his attacks, kill his bot so he shows his face, and rinse and repeat until he's a goner. Anyways, after that ramble, the reason why he's so high up is because he's simply just fun. However, I still have some issues with the Grand Steward. First of all, he's way too easy for a final boss, especially compared to Phobos as the final boss of story mode. You could say that honor goes to Hank, but I say it's Phobos. Now, obviously, story mode is more grounded, and the developers know what characters you're playing and what weapons you'll have when fighting Phobos. But with the Grand Steward, you can be anything, since there's multiple origins, many different weapons and armor and augments that you can bring into the battle. Regardless, I think his attacks are way too weak. I have only lost Corpus to 2 attacks from him, and I have played and beaten arena mode as every single origin. That would be his eye fireballs, and if his metal spinning attack knocks me off the platform. Oh, and don't get me started on how easy he is if you bring the Endozer, like I did in this video. And if you don't know what it is, it's pretty much an electric shotgun. Now, obviously, the suggestion I'm about to make is ridiculous and would take a lot of work, but it would have been so cool if the Grand Steward was different and adapted to each origin. Obviously, we're not including modded, just the vanilla origins. So maybe for the offering or agent, he's faster but deals less damage since those origins are a lot quicker. Or for the massive or disquieted, which are slower origins, he's slow but deals a ton of damage. These are just simple things, but just as a little idea I wanted to throw out there. I just personally think he's way too easy. And honestly somewhat cheesable, especially depending on what weapon you bring to the final boss. With all that said though, he's still so much fun to fight and looks awesome, leaving him so high up on the list.
Alley-oop with a slam dunk. Come over here so I can shoot you.
Our final actual fight with Church and George. Nothing like fighting on a platform surrounded by brown water sludge. Well, whatever it is, thankfully these two twins come to fight in scuba gear. It's no secret of mine, I consider the Gunner twins to be some of the best fights in the entire game, and that's because they're not only fun, but challenging, especially for newer players. These two have the same dynamic as they always had, Church is close range, George with the guns. This is the only boss fight, though, where Church actually uses a weapon, that being a large shock trident that deals electrical damage each hit. This time around, they have 3 corpus, compared to the first fight when they had 2. Let's start off with Church. He can charge at you, and if it hits you, it will knock you down and stun you, leaving you open for an execution by either one of them. He can also shoulder check you, which does the exact same thing, but it's more difficult to dodge since he's normally much closer. His main attack, of course, is smacking you with his trident. However, he can throw his trident like Sanford at you, meaning he can pull it back into his hand after each throw, which I believe the Prophets are the only other enemy in the entire game that can actually do anything like this. Occasionally, Church and George will charge at you at the same time. Every time they knock you down, they high-five each other, which is a really funny addition in my opinion. And if you are good enough, you can actually have them slam into each other when they both charge at you, which I believe is an achievement you can get inside of the game. However, be careful, since Church still has the electricity ground pound slam when he gets back up from being knocked down. George, on the other hand, doesn't do anything when he gets up. The only time he does damage when he gets up is in his first fight, not his second or third, for whatever reason. Okay, let's talk about George. He's pretty simple, to be honest. His weapon is a sludge hose. He shoots in a sideways line, and it does simply minor damage while slowing you down, which makes your movement and attack speed slower. George can also kick you if you get too close, which will knock you over, but on his own, he's a joke. He's kind of honestly a joke in general, but he's very good at supporting Church, so I will give him that. Speaking of which, when he's paired with Church, this slow effect can be damaging, especially since Church is so fast and relentless, and the arena is really small in this fight, especially compared to the first two, which had wide, open, large arenas. This simple slow status can make you take hits you normally wouldn't get hit from, and keep in mind, when one of them dies, a squad of mercs will appear from the manholes, so be careful. Just kidding, you'll wipe them out easily if you made it this far into the city. So no complaints, they take enough damage to be fun for me, but they don't overstay their welcome. These two are just simple fun, I love battling them, and not to mention, I love their characters.
Yeah, I guess, why not? Yeah, alright. That wasn't doing anything.
Set in an underground room with breakable cover lies my #1 boss fight in the entire game. This fight is one of the hardest fights in the game in my opinion, and Church and George bring their A game, along with an infinite spawning number of merc fodder to back them up. This fight, they also have 3 Corpus, and Church is mostly the same, although with his charge, he can break the cover in the arena, which I think is pretty neat. Besides being more durable, Church's main difference in this fight is he can fire a ball of electricity that will attempt to track you. If it hits, it deals a decent chunk of damage while also knocking you over. Other than that, Church is pretty much the exact same as his first fight. However, George, on the other hand, is a little bit different. Although he has the same sideway animation when shooting his weapon, just like with the sludge hose, this time around he has a flamethrower, which not only burns you, but also his own allies, Church included. This of course deals overtime burn damage if it hits with his attack, and other than that, he has a shield, making him one of the very few shield enemies in the entire game. He can and will block your bullets and melee attacks while also slamming his shield into you if you get too close. What I really just like about this fight is it's a true boss fight. It's challenging, but it's not too hard. They can take a lot of damage, they can deal a lot of damage, but it doesn't feel unfair. In fact, you even get a locker room with weapons and a couple health kits prior to entering their boss fight. There's also, I believe, a checkpoint, so if you die, you can go right back into the fight. So overall, it feels fair and it feels fun. And I wish that more boss fights were like this, in a sense, especially with the smaller characters. But I digress. Church and George is just a true boss fight, and I really enjoyed fighting these two. This fight overall for me is just so much fun. It's so challenging. While only a little different from their first fight, they still bring a worthy and entertaining challenge that's clearly the best in all of...
Come and face the end.
Hold on. What is that?
The end is not the end for me.
The true winner of this boss ranking is Director Phobos. Ah, boy. Phobos is right. The end is not the end for this director. Not even the supposed end to this video with the #1 ranking of Church and George can stop this mad lad. Phobos is easily, without question for me, one of my favorite bosses I've played in any game. His arena is simple but scary, with it being surrounded with purple fire. Him being a literal purple godly ghost is cool, and I love the black flame coming from his eye. Anyway, on to my true #1 boss fight, which is by far the longest and hardest fight in the game. Phobos easily having the most attacks out of any boss. During his first 2 Corpus, Phobos will move and teleport around the arena, where he will charge himself up to unleash a circular magic blast that can knock you down if hit by it. He'll also slide towards you with a kick that can send you flying backwards into the dark flames surrounding you. Another attack he has is a fast magical push that, as far as I remember, is the only attack in the entire game that can disarm you of your weapon. Fun fact, Zeds used to be able to do that, but they do not do that anymore because it was really annoying. Other than that, he'll blast at you with fast-moving red skulls, and once his Corpus goes, he'll usually disappear to attack you with bigger red skulls. After his second Corpus goes, he begins the start of him hiding with a red shield, while he attacks you with rubble, more red skulls, and he starts summoning weak enemies called ghosts. All they do is try to smack you, and they're pretty weak. So all you gotta do is kill all the summoned ghosts, then Phobos will get a sword. Yay! Phobos will then go full-on anime mode and quickly swing by the arena, attempting to slice you open. After a few of these, he very quickly does his disarming attack on the entire team. Now, with his newfound sword, he has even more abilities! Woohoo! Besides the obvious simple slash he'll be able to do with a sword, he can also toss his sword with the spinning circular motion, which will cause the sword to spin around the arena before eventually coming back to him. Along with him being able to summon a simple blast of purple energy that just adds to his wide range of attacks. After you take out his Corpus, it's the same deal, except now his sword is floating up in the air targeting you. Go under it and prepare to be met with a slam dunk of swordy pain. Anyways, he's the same deal until you get to his last 2 Corpus, where he'll then steal Jeb's Halo. aka the Keystone Fragment. Now, from what I can tell in this phase, he's much more aggressive and faster. His attacks are pretty much the same, except for instead of 1 purple slash, it's 2 now, and he randomly can disappear to summon those big, mean red skulls directly at you. So have fun! Anyways, you just gotta keep enduring this until you finally beat the big, mad lad himself. Phew! Phobos is by far, for me, the best boss fight in Madness Project Nexus, and honestly, it's not even close. He is a tier or more above all the other bosses. And he's easily, and I don't think anyone's gonna disagree with me on this, the hardest boss, especially on Madness mode. Seriously, try it. Have fun, because it's a trial. I absolutely love his voice, his design, his arena, the amount of attacks he has. He's truly a final boss to a game, and Phobos to this day is one of my favorite bosses in any game I've ever played, period. Out of all the franchises, Madness Combat means the most to me, especially this game. This game means so much to me, and I am truly grateful such a game exists. This is my first ever video I've ever done, like something like this, doing a voiceover, recording gameplay, making a script for gaming. It's been a bit of a learning process, but I truly have enjoyed putting this video together, and fun fact, I am in college, and I think I started this in term 2, and I laid it off, and now I'm in term 6. I'm finally finishing this game, play video, and I just have to say, the reason why this game means so much to me is because I remember when I was 12 years old, when I was in my teenage years, I would always go up and down my driveway, and I would think of just each level would normally have different little lore segments, different dialogues. There's different like notes you can find around the game where it gives you different lore bits, and I would always think to myself, walking up and down my street, the different lore bits. What is Sheriff doing? What is Jeb doing? Who is Phobos? What's going on? And I also had Madness Project Nexus Classic, but Madness Project Nexus has way more lore and is a much deeper dive. If 12-year-old me could see the game right now, I think he'd die of a heart attack. In all honesty, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I truly hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too amateur for you guys. And I hope you go out and buy this game, along with supporting all the creators, who I hopefully linked all of them in the description. Madness Project Nexus is truly an action-packed game that is worth your time. And Crinkles and Swain, if you guys ever hear this, which who knows, I'm a 9-subscriber channel with just a couple goofy videos of me and my friends, thank you so much. Your hard work paid off for me. And I have been following this game for a long time, and it's truly great. I hope you guys enjoyed. Farewell, my fellow agents, and good luck on your voyages. Peace out.